Welcome on this beautiful day in Florida. This is Toni Weel. We have with us Sara from Virtuous Unicorns and that Cheatham, who I love him being here. I love it when he is here. He always has a great insight in things that I forget he didn't. So and I came up with let's talk about the lymphatic system because there is not enough known about it and how it works. We all know, oh yeah, we need to get that lymph flowing, but what is it? How does it work? And so I found a few notes actually on a website that has a ton of great information, and I suggest everyone listening check that out. It is grapegates.com. Grape as in grape, grapegate.com. And you'll find a ton of absolutely great information. So I'm going to read you a part of it that explains it nicely. And it is about two separate circulatory systems in our body take care of the feeding and cleaning of cells. That's the cardiovascular system, the blood circulation, and the lymphatic system, lymph circulation. Now, nutrients enter in from the bloodstream when water, plasma, in the bloodstream comes out to shower, irrigate our internal cell forms with oxygen, water, and dissolved nutrients like sugar, vitamins, amino acids, fatty acids, minerals, etc. So just as you do, your cells ingest and metabolize these various nutrients received and as a result produce waste byproducts, which they excrete into the interstitial spaces around them. And these wastes must be removed. Dr. Mars always liked to see, your cells eat and they poop, so to keep it simple. The water returning to the bloodstream also leaves behind leftover material between the cells that cannot be reabsorbed back into the blood and must be removed another way. The lymphatic system is then our internal garbage collector and house of the immune system. It retrieves these waste materials by pulling them out from the spaces between the cells through a suction-like effect, like a vacuum cleaner, creating a negative pressure environment like sucking all the air out of a balloon that pulls the cells close together and close to blood and lymph capillaries. Oh my gosh. Capillaries? Capillaries? That
Capillaries.
capillaries. Here we go. In Dutch is almost like a phonetic language. So, and I usually get away with it. Capillaries. There we go.
Hey, don't feel bad. I mispronounce words all the time.
Yeah, well, I always say I keep learning, and these are words that you don't use often. So now I hope I don't forget it again. This way, the lymphatic system maintains our tissue in a purified and clean condition and keeps the cells very close to blood capillaries for 24/7 optimal oxygenation, hydration, and nourishment. The purified and negative sub-atmospheric pressure environment is called a dry state or vacuum state and represent a perfect healthy living environment of the cells where there is just enough fluid to encircle the cells and where no process of disease, whether of degenerative, infectious, or allergic nature, can take place because cells have all their needs met all the times. Their surroundings are clean and the immune system can function at optimal capacity. In 1961, it was discovered by Dr. Arthur C. Guyton, MD, 1919 till 2003, author of the world's most widely used medical physiology textbook, and a man far ahead of his time, that to have a healthy body, our tissue must be in this negative subatmospheric pressure condition. He published his discovery that same year, later coined at it the dry state. This dry state or perfect health environment for your cells can be reversed in countless ways. Anything that is harmful to the body harms the body mainly by causing stress or direct damage to your tissue, and this will change the dry state in the tissues affected. However, all damaging elements are primarily catalysts that set things in motion, because there is only one substance inside your physical body that can ultimately change the perfect cellular, healthy living environment, and that is fluid, water. You see, under normal conditions, there is only water, enough water to create a tiny river around each cell, no more, no less. This water originates from the bloodstream each time water leaves the bloodstream to shower your cells with oxygen and nutrients. When water comes out and enters the tissue spaces where the cells are, most of it is very quickly pulled back into the bloodstream, but leaves behind a little bit of fluid, and this little bit then becomes interstitial lymph fluid. This being the lymph fluid that surrounds cells and is eventually pulled into our other circulatory system, the lymphatic system. However, when tissue cells or blood capillaries fall in harm's way, whether from mechanical, like abrasions, bruising, concussions, cuts, fractures, dislocations, etc., chemical, damaging and physiologically harmful food, mental stress, shock, etc., including chemotherapy and other toxins, preservatives, additives, fumes, solvents, excess macro and micronutrients. Electrical, like electric burns, electric shock, electromagnetic radiation coming from X-rays, CT scans, mammograms, radiation therapy, Wi-Fi, mobile phones, laptops, smart meters, and other electric, electronic, and wireless technology, and thermal forces like burns and frostbites. This ignites a process widely known as inflammation. Depending on the severity of damage, a sometimes dramatical exit of water from the bloodstream takes place across capillary walls. It can happen throughout the entire body, as from mental stress or traumatic shock, or in localized areas. Water enters tissue spaces in quantities far exceeding the lymphatic system's capacity to keep up. The lymphatic capillaries are left to do their best possible to drain this flooding, with sometimes very little success. This is all I decided to read from that article. It can be found when you go to grapegate.com and you type in lymphatic system. It shows it there. It's a very long one, and we have other ones from Dr. Morse about the lymphatic system, the great lymphatic system. I think I even added it to my ebook. Your health journey guide, and I know that Ted has it in front of him, so your turn, Ted.
All right. Yeah, I really enjoy this subject because it's so misunderstood, because to give a little bit of background on why it's so misunderstood, I've heard I think I've heard Dr. Morris mention it before, and I think I've heard Patty talking about it before, but I may have also heard some other natural doctors talk about before that it's hard for most medical students to understand the lymphatic system because for over the last, I think, 200 years, most medical students are taught the anatomy and physiology of the body by studying cadavers. And they say that it's very hard to understand the lymphatic system studying a cadaver because the lymphatic system, it collapses and it's hard for them to see it in the cadaver. So they really they haven't really had a good understanding of the lymphatic system because for the longest time they were never able to really analyze the body while it was still living. So see, that's another problem, of the medical association. But also too, look at them. They're a system based on, treatment over truly understanding these things to be able to help you to understand them and to be able to help you to understand how to help them to improve. They're just chasing symptoms. So if you look at it from that point of view, you can see how, they don't put as much focus on it because it's not really their, main thing they're going for, even though they're supposed to be the ones teaching these things properly, and we've even heard Patty Lager, which is the anatomy and physiology professor that teaches courses at Dr. Morse's school and also talks a lot with Dr. Morse sometime on his Q&As. But she's even said that there's a lot of things that she can't talk about with her students, because it goes outside of the guidelines of even, what the medical association wants her to teach to the students. And one of those things is what I was going to mention, and I was going to start off with out of the book that I was going to read now. The book that I'm going to be reading out of is called From Dr. Morse's Book Series, The Illusion Called Diseases, Volume 1, The Great Lymphatic System. This was a PDF that was just shared in our communities online from someone, and I just happened to see it and I saved it. And then I imagine Toni did the same thing. It doesn't have a date on it. I'm not sure what year it's from, but I assume that it was probably 10 years or more ago, because at one moment in here where Dr. Morse is talking, he said he had 40 years of experience when now I know he's probably up to around 50 something, but anyways, the part that I wanted to start reading was, because if I start at the very first, it's a lot of the stuff that Toni has already talked about. But the part I wanted to bring up first was he says, because everything at the first is like I was saying, what Toni was already talking about. And but he goes on and he says, medical doctors focus primarily on the blood, which is the kitchen of the body, like Toni mentioned. However, most of man's problems are the body's sewer system or lymphatic system. The lymphatic system is considered the body's cleansing system and main part of its immune system. For some reason, these systems seem to be foreign to most medical doctors. One of the biggest misconceptions of this great system, which by way is twice as big as the blood system, is the concept that one poops in their kitchen. Let me explain what I mean by that. The medical and massage therapy modalities believe or theorize that the body's sewer system dumps its waste back into the venous or kitchen system. If this were true, then there would be no need for the lymph vessels at all, as the role of the skin and kidneys would not be primary in the elimination of cellular waste. Massage therapy, which is a modality that is primarily focused on the lymphatic system, feeds into this illusion. So when they do lymphatic massage, drain massage, they are taught to move the lymphatic waste or cellular sewage towards the heart, inferior vena cava, or the subclavian veins. There's also a lot of controversy on just how this great sewer system eliminates its cellular waste. This is just another example of how much of life man still doesn't understand. However, I've had 40 years of study, now it's probably about over 50, research and clinical practice observing the role of the kidney, skin, colon, and in the elimination of cellular waste. And even I heard Patty mention one time that she agreed years ago when she heard Dr. Morse say that. She said, now that you say that, she was saying what she was thinking out loud when she heard him say it. She thought, well, now that you mention that, that makes a lot of sense that I've never really thought of before, that they've always just taught us that, but I never stopped to think about it in the way that Dr. Morse was explaining it, that it doesn't make any sense why that the body would dump its waste back into its blood, because it's trying so hard to get all the waste out of the body and it not have it in the blood. Because as Dr. Morse has mentioned many times, if considering that the sewer system is supposed to be where it's the collection of waste and most waste are acidic, then the body is trying hard to keep the blood alkaline. Because as he's mentioned many times, if your blood becomes too acidic, you only have like 3 minutes left to live. Something along those lines, when he was talking, I may not get the percentages just exactly right. But my point is that that's why the body uses the two systems of the body to neutralize acids from hurting the arteries. And the main one is cholesterol, and then the other one is calcium, and that's why we have issues with calcium buildup in their body, like kidney stones and things like that, because the body's trying to leach that calcium from the bones and the teeth and the nails and different places to neutralize that acid. And it makes perfect sense when we see a lot of those symptoms like osteoporosis and things like that in our societies because of where the standard Americans and standard people in the world live on such acidic diets. But okay, to keep going with oh, and one more story I wanted to mention briefly that I found very interesting was when I was at Dr. Morris's class in 2019, I mean 18, to take the level 2. I went when I was down there. I didn't get to go the first time I took level 1, but the second time I wanted to go by and see his clinic, and even though they were closed, I wanted to just take some photographs and actually be able to see it because I didn't have a chance to see it the first time. And when I went and seen it then, he still had his clinic was in the old shopping center where he had all of the shops except for one at the very end. And the one at the very end was a massage therapy shop. And I remember asking Dr. Morris at the class, I was like, have you talked to her before about how the lymphatic system flows? It doesn't flow into the blood. And he said something along the lines, the best I can remember. He said something along the lines, yeah, we've had the discussion, but she has her beliefs and I have mine. And that's just all by the way that we're taught and we're educated. So, but I found that was, interesting with our conversation today. But okay, I'll keep going. There's a couple more things I wanted to mention from this PDF that was important, and then we'll let Toni and Sara continue the conversation too. Okay, it goes on and it says, let's see, the vitalness of all modalities to understand true healing and how easy it is for one to cure man's self-centered elements or repair his injuries properly is paramount to the survival of the human species. This cannot happen without somewhat of an understanding of this tremendous eliminative system called the lymphatic system. As said, having basic or simplistic understanding of how the body works overall is, of course, vital to helping you understand what causes dis-ease and how to eliminate it. And he goes on and he just talks about the two basic understandings of the sides of chemistry, one's acid and one's, alkaline. Um, and he says it talks about that the body's made up of a bunch of cells and two fluids, and then it goes on and he says, let me find it. Let's see. Yeah, he says, as said earlier, the medical community and massage community consider the body doing the same thing. However, the Supreme Being was much smarter than this and created a whole separate eliminative system to deal with the body's cellular and parasitic waste. It is said the body produces several pounds of cellular waste each day, head to toe. And of course, more active the body is involved in exercise, dance, sport, etc., sports, etc., means you can double the cellular waste. Wow, I didn't remember that part. That's interesting. It makes sense though. Enter the great lymphatic system. It's twice as large as the kitchen or the blood. And so now it's to understand why we have two separate fluids. One feeds and one cleans. And then it goes on talking about the interstitial fluids around the spaces of the cells, the lymph vessels, and then I wanted to read about the lymph nodes because this was very interesting and something very important to understand. And then also, it explains one of the things that you see in our society so much these days. All waste from houses must go into septic tanks to be broken down and neutralized as much as possible before elimination into the earth. And so it is with your body. But instead of having only one septic tank like most houses, your body has thousands. The body's septic tanks are called lymph nodes. The adenoids, tonsils, and appendix are good examples of lymph nodes. You have a mass of each of them under your arm that drains the arm and breast. And your jaw, sternum, groin, etc. have many as well. They're everywhere. They are important for the proper elimination of cellular waste and damaged cells. From the lymph nodes, your septic tanks is off to the outside world. And pretty much he means it goes down to the eliminative channels, which I'm going to get to that in just a minute. And then he goes on, he says at the end of this little chapter, he says, show me someone with their tonsils removed, and I'll show you someone with transverse colon problems and brain draining lymphatic problems, especially sinus problems. And you can very much see that in symptomology, and it all traces back to the cause. And the cause is of what I was going to talk about, and of how I find it very ironic in our society how we see so many people have so much problems with these areas that even the medical association has tried to tell you that these lymph nodes that you just mentioned are not even necessary for the body, and that they're vestigial and left over from some previous reason, which is complete nonsense if you ask me. Because I think, if God put it there for a reason when he created you, then it's there for a very important reason all throughout your life. And your tonsils, those are the lymph nodes to help your head to drain properly. And it's very important. And what's very ironic is most kids from a very young age lose their tonsils because look at the foods they were given from birth. There's so many of the women, they're not able to breastfeed for different reasons. They're put on formulas. They're given dairy and cow's milk after they get off the formula. There's so many of the congestive foods that are just detrimental to those tonsils. And that's how I lost my tonsils at 7 years old. My mother's mother and my mother, they believed in giving me lots of dairy because my mom's mom believed that dairy was so important for your bones and all those things, which is so ironic, and it's very damaging and very causing of damage to the bones, not helping the bones. That's just one of the things they try to tell you to get you to drink dairy. But and then it going on the appendix. Look at the appendix. How many people have problems with that? Is because the appendix is the bacteria storehouse for the large intestines. And so many people have problems with that because of our overuse of sterilizing agents and chemical drugs and things like antibiotics and all those things that greatly harm your immune system, and which harms the lymphatic system, but also the massive congestion and pollution of acid waste that gets so congested in the colon, it can probably greatly affect the appendix's function as well. And then some people are more, and you can see this in iridology, what I'm about to mention, is some people are more genetically predispositioned to have issues with their appendix versus others. And you can see that in iridology. That's why, and what I mean by that when you see it in iridology is you can see different genetic weaknesses that people have, that it doesn't mean that they're going to have problems with that the rest of their life. It just means that if you live the same lifestyle that your parents did, or most standard people following these types of diets, then you're going to have the same expression of symptoms that your parents and family did. That's what the true role of genetics are. Genetics change and express according to how you live. They're not like what the medical association tries to tell us, where they are set in stone and they're always going to be like they try to tell people with diabetes. Oh, your parents and your family had diabetes, you're going to have diabetes, and there's nothing you can do about it. No, if you don't live the same lifestyle that they did. Now, type 1, of course, that's totally different than type 2, but I'm just saying a lot of people don't understand about how your genetics change according to the way you live. Even comes down to your thoughts. Your thoughts can create the expression of your genetics, positive or negative. But okay, going on is he goes on and he says he talks about even the lymph nodes, and think about how many times women start to have problems with their lymph nodes right above their breast when they start to have breast cancer. And think about whenever they have a mass removed from their breast, they also remove those lymph nodes. But think about how women are taught from such a young age to wear a bra, and a lot of women wear a bra even too much, too active, or too often. Even some women I've talked to and known in our society wear them even when they're sleeping, and that really greatly inhibits the flow of lymphatic fluids out of the breast into those lymph nodes properly. And if you look at a lot of the cultures that have went for a long time without, or not at all without wearing bras, then they have much healthier functioning lymphatic systems and lymph nodes in those areas. There's even proof that the African women in the tribes, when they don't wear the the bras, that the breasts bounce with each walk and each movement. And did you know every time you bounce with gravity, just like on a rebounder, that stimulates the pumping of the lymphatic system, because the lymphatic system doesn't have a pump like your heart does. So you have to pump it using movement, whether it's deep breathing exercises, which are excellent because the expansion and contraction of the chest when you breathe, and also doing rebounding, going up and down against gravity. And then also, every time you make your leg go up and down, that piston action, just like a piston of a car engine, that pumps the lymphatic system as well. So see, these are things that, we're just not taught properly about. And now to the last section of this book that was really interesting, that I found very vital, and a section that I wish Dr. Morse would talk more about, because he wrote it here, and he does talk about it from time to time, but not really enough, in my opinion. Did you want to say something, Toni or
No,
Sarah?
no, I'm good.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is the last section, and then I'm going to let y'all talk again. Sorry to be so lengthy. I just thought it was some important information I wanted to share today. He goes on into the book. He says, eliminative organs. Now here's the kicker. Where do your cellular waste go? Back to the lungs and heart? Question mark. I don't think so. That would be stupid of the Supreme Being to make an incredibly complex, intelligent machine that poops in its own kitchen, especially when you understand that most cellular waste are acids, and putting acids in the blood would be a huge no-no, because death would be certainly because death would certainly be imminent within minutes. Common sense would go a long way in our current healthcare systems. We'll go back to nature for the two sides of chemistry shortly. First, let me introduce you to lymphatic system's eliminative organs. This is very important, what I'm about to mention, because this is the part that, Dr. Morse, he mentions two of them, but he doesn't tie in the third one as much unless you really listen closely to a lot of his different talks, because he'll mention it every now and then. He says the lymphatic system's eliminative organs are the kidneys, the skin, which he talks about that a lot, and then he also says the colon. And the colon's the one, or the GI tract is the one that he doesn't talk about as much, or he doesn't connect the two, connect them to the kidneys and the skin as much. But it is very important, and he has mentioned it before, because he talked about how you see mucus coming out in your waste, and that mucus is a sign of the lymphatic system still dumping its waste through those channels. And so, from my understanding of reading Dr. Jensen's studies as well as Dr. Morse's studies, and kind of combining them in certain ways, is that I kind of think of that when you look at the eliminative channels of the body, that the lymphatic system and the digestive system, they are kind of equal, because the more you clean up the digestive system, because that's been severely overburdened in the body, which creates a lot of overburden to the lymphatic system, because we're always eating, because that's something we do daily. And so that just really accumulates, because, the cause and effect. The more you do something, the more you're creating those symptoms you're going to experience. And it's the same way as reversing it. That's why the more people follow Dr. Morse's protocol consistently, they will reverse those conditions that they have, because of cause and effect. It's really that simple. Same thing with learning how to ride a bicycle, or learning how to do any kind of, practice. The more you practice playing the piano, the better you're going to get at it, because of cause and effect. But he goes on and he says, if these exits are blocked or too weak to support proper kidney function, then one's cellular waste will ooze out any hole your body has. And that's very interesting how he said that because it's so true. You see it coming out the corners of your eyes when you wake up in the morning. That's mucus. He's talked about many times the white pussy stuff you see coming out of the pimples and the boils and the sores. Even the lymphomas that he's talked about many times on that lady's show, Dr. Pimple Popper, where she's, busting open those lymphomas and all that nasty stuff that comes out. That's lymphatic waste trying to find a exit out of your skin because your other eliminative channels are blocked. Same thing as psoriasis and eczema. That's the reason why you get the patchy skin, flaky patches of skin, because the acids coming out are causing irritation to the skin and it gets red and inflamed, and you start having scaly skin because the acids are damaging the skin. And then he goes on, and oh yeah, and it'll come out the ears, it'll come out the belly button, it'll come out all these different holes that your body has. It says first your lymph nodes will swell. That's your body telling you your lymph system is getting blocked, or simply put, your food consumption is too toxic or mucus forming. And then, if needed, the body will pocket or encase this trash, creating tumors, boils, cysts, polyps, etc. And that's what's very interesting is in our community of natural healing, we explain that the more cleansing you do, you have the potential to dissolve these things, even tumors, if you do the opposite of what created it, because all they are is a trash can. And if you help your body to clean enough, eventually the body will break down that trash can and help it to get it out. But you have to look at how much vitality is in the human body to begin with. Because as we age, as the body degrades, as the body gets weaker, it loses its electrical charge. And you can look at it they've done studies to see how much energy the body has, and they call it angstroms of energy. And they can look at the same thing when you look at living plants, and you can see how much energy they put off. And all your fruits give off about 8 to 10,000 angstroms of energy. And very ironically, the human body in its healthy state gives off the same amount. Well, did you know a person that has cancer only has 4,500 angstroms of energy? And that shows you that they've lost some of their electrical charge or vitality. Okay, well, why is it we love fruit so much again? They're the highest electrical charge. We're eating it for their energy even more than the vitamins, minerals, and nutrients, and the astringent properties. All of those are very important. Don't get me wrong, but we're mostly eating it for energy, because the more energy the body has, the higher the metabolism can be, the better the systems can function, and the better we can detox, and the better we can live life in general. So that's why it's very important that we eat high energetic things and even experience nature and things that are very highly energetic, because that fuels up our bodies. And that's why it's so bad when we eat so much dead and cooked foods, is because it's had all the energy taken out of it, mostly. Now, it depends on how much it's been cooked and how much processed it is and stuff like that. But okay, the last section of this book, and then I'm going to turn it back over to Toni and Sara. It goes on and he says, your kidneys are the main players in this process of cellular waste removal. They are supposed to eliminate for each side of your body respectively. Your skin is your largest eliminative organ and is considered the body's third kidney. The colon drains the central trunk of the body, including the brain, as far as we know. So see, that's what's very important for people to understand that have really congested heads, is that you can't really get your head to drain properly if you don't get the colon to drain properly. Like draining a drain or a sewer system, you have to pull the plug. Well, the waste has to come out the colon and the large and small intestines first really well. And I'm talking about the deep waste, the old waste that's been there from a long time ago, not just the waste from most recently. And then it helps to create a suction effect that helps the central trunk of the body to drain. And then that suction effect continues and helps the head to start to drain. And that's very important for people that have lots of issues with their master glands, their hypothalamus, their pituitary, and their brain from functioning properly. That will help the adrenals and the other the thyroid and the other glands to work properly, and also help the just the focusing and the brain function in general to improve. And that's something that a lot of people are very challenged with because, again, the elimination property, I mean, the elimination function of the lymphatic system and the colon are sometimes really weak because they've been so congested and weakened for so many decades and so many years in a lot of people's body from the abuse of these certain diets and lifestyles that we live. And also, of course, stress, anxiety, worry, and fear, which is greatly detrimental to these parts of our bodies. But he goes on and he says, your kidneys and skin are the main players, however. The colon plays a major part in its own lymphatic system, but as said, it helps some of the main trunk of the body as well. You can especially see the colon's role as somewhat of a lymph drainer when you detoxify. It shows up as mucus in your stools. As said, each kidney drains each side of the body respectively. The right kidney filters the right arm, breast, hip, ovary, testicle, and leg lymphatically, and the same thing happens on the left side. So it's simple. When you see a tumor on the right breast, there's a blockage in the right kidney. Remember, the blockage is always in the kidneys, colon, and or skin. Tumors are not blood clots, they are lymph clots. It's that simple. And then he just goes on and he says, to end out this section, he just goes on and says, Homo sapiens raised on meat and other proteins at least 2 times a day have chronic kidney weakness or GI tract problems. Those who drink or eat a lot of dairy products generally have low thyroid function and highly congested lymphatic system, which affects one's ability to sweat. The skin, being the body's largest eliminative organ, must be allowed and encouraged to sweat. The thyroid controls fevers, which creates sweating and allows the system to eliminate the body's waste more effectively. Body heat, especially fevers, is the body's way to increase the elimination of cellular waste. If one cannot sweat, then this backs up the lymphatic system, creating lymphatic stagnation, especially subcutaneous or the upper top layer. However, kidney weakness is by far one of the biggest problems that modern man faces and is the root cause of 95% of man's illness. Okay, well, that's pretty much all that he talks about in this one. I mean, of course, he talks about much more, but I will leave it at that, and I will just say the last thing is he was talking about up here. He was talking about the let's see, what was I going to mention? He was just talking about the how raised on these certain diets and how we drink a lot of those things. And then I was going to mention one more thing. Let's see. Uh, I can't think of it, so I'll let Toni and Sara talk. But I wanted to say that I imagine that if you want a copy of this PDF, we can email it to you, and I think Toni has it as well as I do. And so if you would like a copy, just reach out to us, and we can email it to you, and you can read the whole thing for yourself. And okay, I pass it back to you guys, Toni and Sara. Yeah.
Yeah, I have the that file as a separate file, and I can email it to people. It's also part of my ebook. There's another section in it that talks about all the symptoms that with a stagnated lymph system can happen, and we don't even think about relating it to that. It's often, oh yeah, it must be a liver or. But there is a part in it, and I think it is in that same book because I have the whole ebook in front of me, and that's 231 pages. So I picked just one out. I'm on it. Oh, page 8. It says when the lymphatic system becomes obstructed, the cellular environment in time becomes more acidic, oxygen deprived, dehydrated, and coagulated. Interstitial, which refers to the spaces around the cell, lymph fluid begins to thicken and agglomerate, and the flow slows down. The systemic dehydration spawned from a congested lymphatic system is not the kind of dehydration that one can simply throw liters of water at. in hopes of achieving a resolution, thinking the problem has been fixed. When the cells themselves are affected, this begins to interfere with and restrict or temporarily hyperstimulate their functional ability. At this point, it's only a matter of understanding what the different cells in your body do for you. Then imagine if many of these physiological processes were inhibited or ceased entirely. From the lymphatic system itself, many different but common symptoms can arise. Allergies, which get worse with weak adrenal glands, slow recovery from injuries or otherwise stiff and tightness, aches and pains, being sore for long periods of time, pressure buildup in any part of the head leading to headaches and migraines, glaucoma, tinnitus, etc., sinus congestion, graying of hair, receding hairlines, hair loss and balding, dandruff, dryness, pimples, acne, dermatitis, psoriasis, rosacea, and most other skin problems, especially if unable to sweat well from low thyroid function. Swollen lymph nodes like tonsils, cysts, masses, tumors, and the like, and tissue won't heal fully, and scars develop to compensate, and so forth. And it's only a matter of time, only a matter of where in the body the individual is most genetically compromised, as these are typical the locations where symptoms will occur first. And if it happens to involve, say, the adrenal glands, then an extensive list of symptoms can occur, ranging from blood pressure problems to affecting such things as breathing, blood glucose levels, mineral utilization factors by impacting steroid production, and compromising energy levels, all stemming from just one pair of weakened glands. These issues will never be remedied by treating with, and he mentioned a bunch of medications, mineral supplementation, cortisol medicines like prednisone, or stimulants, respectively, because if you treat, you can't cure. I think this is all part of that same book, and we often forget about the importance of the lymph system, and that's why I found this, talk about it so important, and the relation to the kidneys. And I can take myself as an example. When I was in my early 20s, I was diagnosed with true iridology. Well, you can't say really diagnosed, but it was shown that I had weak left kidney. All the problems that I have in my body start always on the left side, from psoriasis, from breaking a leg to, yeah, what is it? Well, actually, I have to say my right eye is not really doing great, but everything it started from the left side. And so what you mentioned is, if your left kidney doesn't work and the lymph system doesn't work well, and you are acidic, because often we just talk about being acidic, but nobody really understands what it is. And I hope that we at least explained it somewhat. And Sara, I was going to mention something else. You were talking about tonsils and appendix, and I'm struggling with understanding, why does the tonsil issue always starts at such a young age? Even for myself, I mean, I had my tonsils removed when I was 5 years old, and at that time, polio was going around. We're talking about the 50s. So they said to my mother that they could not do the removal of the tonsil because I may get polio. Yeah, the craziness is really unbelievable. But this was 1957. And I was, oops, I didn't drink enough this morning. I got a few emergencies, but anyway, with the tonsils, I was at 5 years old, I was 100% deaf. I was completely deaf. And I already had these from 6 months old. First, it's where you get your first shot in the Netherlands. Back then, I started having ear problems, ear infections. And of course, I was forced to drink milk, started also at 6 months old. So everything led to being deaf at 5 years old, and they said it was caused by the tonsils. So at 5, 6, or 7, I forgot when, I've been deaf for quite a while, and then the tonsils were taken out, and then my hearing came back. And with even that and Sara, even with everything I learned, I still cannot explain it fully. Can you?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Because, or let me say, um, I can give a logic my best logical guess, because of course it's different for everybody, because all of us are so different in our experiences that we experience. I like to think of us all just as unique as our fingerprint, which means every one of us have a different experience, because, our everything, there's so many different variables, our genetics, where we live, how we're raised, all these different factors, and I think what it is it's all how much we're exposed to heated fats, especially heated fats that are not from plants. Which any kind of heated fat becomes rancid and is very congesting to the lymphatic system because, as Dr. Morris explains, the lymphatic system is a lipid-based system. So, and I've even talked to Patty about this before too, and I've been wanting to, write up a whole article explaining, about fats and how fats, as Dr. Morris says, dairy products are the worst congesting substance for the lymphatic system. And I see so many kids, and including myself, as including you, Toni, that we all have the same issues happen. Because I've had a lot of challenges with my ears too, and I know so many kids that have had to have tubes put in their ears and all kind of different problems with their ears, as well as tonsil issues because of the congestion of dairy products. Because dairy products, think about it. If it's congesting your head and you have a lot of mucus reaction after you drink it, then how's your head able to drain that excessive congestion of mucus properly? And so it starts to really greatly overwhelm the tonsils, and the tonsils start to become red and inflamed. And they're really just telling your body and you that making your throat sore. They're telling you, hey, I need some help here because you're doing something that's making me red and inflamed. And so naturally, if anyone had logical sense in this world, they would say, well, we need to take away the fire that's causing the burn, causing the inflammation. And that means take away the acids that are causing them to swell and become inflamed. And so that's my theory, is that a lot of times people have so many problems with their bodies, including their lymph nodes, the tumors, the boils, the acne, the psoriasis, the eczema, the dermatitis, the rashes, so many things that we see in our body. It's from too much consumption of lipids, especially heated lipids and lipids from animal products. That's what I've seen so much in, diabetes and fatty liver, and like I said, psoriasis and eczema. One of the first things my parents' natural health book at our store says about psoriasis is you have to eliminate dairy products because it's one of the main causes of psoriasis. So see, that's my theory. And now, while I'm talking, and then I'll let you talk again, is I was also going to say earlier, not only about the fat, and that's interesting that you brought that up, and it helped me to remember that I did want to mention about the fat and how the lymphatic system is a lipid-based system, and how when people are detoxing, they're not able to see true kidney filtration, and they're not able to see the true old nasty lymphatic waste until they remove all the fats for long enough on their detox to see the old waste coming out. Because the body's going to filter out in your kidneys, the kidney filtration, it's going to filter out the most recently deposited lymphatic waste that's there, that's easiest to come out. And that's also because the body cleanses in reverse. It cleanses what's most recently deposited before it gets back to the old stuff. So you have to really shut off the incoming waste that is produced by the body, or I mean, that's accumulated in the body from things that we are exposed to, including our environment, our thoughts, and our food and what we drink. and then use things like herbs and tools and fruits and herbs, which are tools, to help get that waste to start coming out. And when you do a combination of the good clean diet along with those tools, then you start seeing all that old waste coming out, and then it really, the body can focus on that, because it's not having to focus on all the new incoming waste. And then also, I wanted to mention to everyone that if you are having challenges with helping your brain to drain, one of the tricks that I learned years ago is that Dr. Morse just recently talked about this. Not the one part that I'm fixing to talk about, but what I'm talking about now is he talked about a few years ago. I think it was probably about 2 or 3 years ago. He heard in medical news, that is just part of the medical community, that they announced that they had discovered the lymphatic system. That's the lymphatic system of the brain. That's what it's called. And he was talking about, how, they're just now still discovering these systems in the body, and that shows that how they're learning about these systems of the body, because like I mentioned at the very first of the talk, when I started talking, is that they just haven't really been able to understand the role of the lymphatic system for so many, even probably hundreds of years since they've been studying the human body. And I was also going to say that at nighttime when you sleep, if you can raise the head of your bed only 6 inches, it will help your brain to drain more efficiently. Because your brain, the most of the time that it focuses on draining the lymphatic system and the toxins of the body is at nighttime while you sleep. That's why that's the whole role of the human body in sleeping, is that it's not just for our bodies to rest, which is very important, but it's also to help repair and to drain the waste and to do some of the functions that it can't necessarily do during the daytime, because your body's having to put so much of its functions and energy into just you operating during the day. And that's why we talk about again that the lower amounts of fiber that you consume, you give your digestion a break, or if you eat real water-rich fruits that have low fiber, then the more the body can put into detoxing. But if you eat too much fibrous fruits or too much salads or other foods that are real fibrous, then the body has to use a lot of its energy onto breaking down and digesting those fibers. So that's why we talk a lot about, eating or drinking juices and doing lots of that, and also the low fiber fruits, because it helps the body to put more focusing. And then plus those real high water rich substances, they help to really hydrate and to help wash out, the waste of the body easier. So that's all I was going to add, but I hope that helped to answer maybe some of your understanding of it, Toni.
Yeah, because everybody, drinking milk was just part of life. You had to
That's
drink it
right.
because of the calcium. And when I was 12 years old, they couldn't make me drink it anymore because I hated it with a passion. And that's at 12 years old, that is when the ear infection stopped, because I had them twice a year, from 6 months old until 12 years old. So that was a lot of antibiotics too.
Yep. Yep. It's cause and
And
effect. Cause
yeah,
and effect.
yeah, and it's amazing. Now, my daughter did not grow up on milk. I did not give her milk, but yeah, we ate cheese because, Holland, cheese country, the bread and cheese was a staple. You ate that every day. She didn't have the ear problems that I had, but when she was in her 40s, she started to have some issues, but not as a kid. I don't even remember her ever being sick, although she had an appendix removed when she was 17. So, and it's all these things that you wonder, like, why did it happen? And back then we didn't know. And I thought, we were on a healthy diet, but it wasn't, we didn't eat the meat and the milk, but yeah, the cheese and the eggs and grains and not necessarily fatty foods, although you would say so, because even I had my gallbladder removed at 19 years old. So it's what I can remember of my diet. If I look back at what we ate in fats back then, it was maybe 1/10 of what people eat in fats today. And now it is very common that people have all these diseases, the gallbladder problems, and yeah, it's the diet is
Well,
it's absolutely horrendous the way it is.
well, Tony, I was going to say, what you just mentioned, that tells me with my logical thinking, it tells me, well, that shows that your body has just been real sensitive throughout your life to those particular type of lipids. Because anytime that you stop doing something like that and the body starts to recover rapidly, that kind of shows the body went, oh, finally, I can recover from that I was being burdened by, and you see that a lot of times whenever you remove the certain cause that's, like my sister was talking to one of the ladies at her school and talking about her son had massive migraine headaches. And my sister said, well, you don't have any air fresheners in the house to go in, do you? Like a Glade plug-in. She said, that's ironic you say that. I just put one in his bedroom right by the head of his bed. And she said, well, try removing that one to see what happens. And she removed it. And she's told her the next week, oh, his headaches went away the next day after I removed it. So, see it sometimes the cause is right there staring us in the face. We just have to be able to see what the cause is, and remember that, there's always the cause there. We just have to sometimes be willing to accept that a lot of the things that happen to us through different symptoms are something that we created. It's not something that just flew in mysteriously, like Dr. Moore says from Moose Jaw, Alaska. It's something we created. But let that empower you. Don't feel like a victim and feel hopeless. Let that empower you to say that, hell, if I created it, then I can reverse it. I can do things to help do the opposite, which will get you the opposite results. So that's why I think it's important for us to understand these things, and yes, Tony, that's very interesting you say that because it's interesting how your body could have that response off of just small amounts of those types of lipids, because you probably back then you weren't probably exposed to as much of the cooked vegetable oils and things like that, and you're probably your family back then y'all didn't have lots of fried foods and stuff like we do here in the South now, and the last 50 or 60 years or so here in the South of the United States, and so you probably weren't exposed to as much of that stuff as the majority of us are.
Sarah has to go, and I'm so sorry, Sarah. We didn't even let you talk. I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh, you
Yes, I'm
are,
sorry too, Sarah.
yeah. Next time. Yeah, it's like what you say, the appendix as a bacteria house for the large intestine. Who knew? It's I did know an holistic physician. We're talking, well, 50 years ago. And his wife had an appendix issues, and he was, all for everything natural. And he was like, no, no surgery. She still had her appendix, and it was like, I think that what they did was water fast to get her through it. But my daughter had a ruptured and internal bleeding, so there was no choice. They had to have surgery.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing, Tony. I've heard some people are able to save their appendix by once it starts to like flare up and give them signs that it's under distress, they'll do certain different things to help it to try to recover, and then they're able to still save it. And it's only whenever it's at the critical stage where, like you said, it's either about to rupture or it definitely has ruptured, then yeah, you have no choice then because you can get sepsis. You get an internal infection and then it's gonna, might could be life threatening, which most of the time it is, so that's why they want to avoid that happening. But they say that over, I think I read something between like 75 and 80% of all appendix removals, or no, that was the gallbladder, are unnecessary. But I imagine there's a lot of the appendix removals are unnecessary too. It's just they do that because they don't put as much like emphasis on the importance, especially the appendix, compared, to what it should be given, I guess, yeah, yeah.
It's
And I, And
Yeah,
I
I
think
keep,
I
yeah.
think a lot of it too is exposure to chemicals. Like I think so many of the chemical sterilizing agents that we've used in the last 100 years, it greatly diminishes the effectiveness of the immune system, which is or let me back up, the immunity of your body, because there I go even using that word too, because that's just a made up medical term. It's not really a true. You don't have an anatomy and physiology in the immune system. You just have natural immunity. And as Dr. Morris mentioned in these things that me and Toni read, that lives in your lymphatic system and your intestines. The good bacteria of your body. So I think that's what it is too that makes these lymph nodes sometimes weaker, is because we've used so much chemical products and chemical additives in our foods and different things that have weakened the immunity of the body, which weakens some of those systems, that are in that system of your body.
Yeah, the interesting thing is when you start looking back with what we learned from Dr. Morris in the last few years, and you start looking back on all the things that you experienced throughout life, in mine were quite a few from really crazy things. I mean, early 20s, I was paralyzed from the neck down,
Wow.
and my body had just completely like, okay, given up. And I had these big bumps on my legs and on my arms, and they call that erythema nodosum, which just means painful red swelling. And they couldn't find a cause because, yeah, they were looking for a cause. But when I said, even then, it's like it must have been the food. I was in a stressful marriage and a young child. And it was like I had eaten things I would not ever eat, like, alcohol, high fat, sugar. And that is how my body responded to that. Isn't that amazing? It was just like, okay, enough is enough. And now get away from it. And I figured out it had to be the food. And of course, you knew it was the stress, but together with the food, things that I never ate otherwise. And it was the holidays, and I was like, the heck with it. I eat whatever I want. And before I was on a macrobiotic diet, we now know that it wasn't so healthy, but way back then it was one of the well-known diets if you wanted to use something else. So but every time the body got better again. So throughout my life I always considered myself healthy. Yeah, I had these weird things happening, and I always can relate them to the stress and the food that I was eating. So it is, and I love, being able to do that. By the way, we had a lady just entering our chat. So, guys, I forgot your name. It started with a Vesta. You don't have a mic on, so I don't think that you are able to say anything, but see if that works. She's gone. Okay, that was
Yeah.
just Festa. Hi, Festa. Bye, Festa. I'm sorry it didn't work.
but But yeah, Toni, what you were saying, that is so very true. And it was probably just that's you see that a lot in our community with people and their life experiences, that when times get challenging and then everything compounds and makes it so much more, the symptomology is so much greater than whenever it's not compounded. Especially, I think, kind of like the main catalyst that makes the person go, it tips them over the threshold or overboard, or makes their cup overflow with too much that the body can handle, is that the different things they have going on in their lifestyle, it starts to make them feel not only physical stress and tiredness and anxiety, but also mental and spiritual. It makes the spirit even feel weighted down inside the human body. And I think that's what ends up kind of tipping you overboard, because you feel overwhelmed, because I felt even the energy coming off your words. It's almost like I could feel some of that challenge that you had even coming out of your expression of your energy through your words to me after all these years, Toni, because was that your first time of being a mother too when it happened?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
see, that there you go. That was, you were going through that, such a life-changing experience, that your body was saying, wow, this is so different. This is so overwhelming in a way. And it goes back to my analogy of how, imagine what the body's thinking the very first time we go riding a bicycle, especially if we're moving very fast, or the very first time we went fast in a vehicle, or the very first time we went fast in a train, or anything like that, where the body's like, whoa, what's going on? This is different. I'm not used to this, and it's just, it becomes a very overwhelming experience in our life, and so I think that's why we see these things happen the way they do sometimes, is because everything starts to accumulate to the point of overwhelmness, so I find it very interesting. I love to hear people's stories, because you can see how all the puzzle pieces come together, after the fact. And that's how we can also learn from our own experiences, and that's how we can see these things happen with other people. And then we don't always have the same experiences, but we can still see how these things happen in our lives and in the world. Yeah.
Yeah, it was always a mystery. Doctors don't know, and we still hear that today. I mean, it was with my sister who had an what they called an aneurysm in her brain, and once I asked her, "Did you ask the neurologist what is the cause?" And he had told her he didn't know, and she could have been born with that. End of story.
Yeah, that's what I've
Mhm.
heard a lot of people say too, and that's amazing that she survived, because I personally, we had a lady, a young girl, she was in her 30s, that worked for us at my parents' health food store, and one day she would said she just had a recent baby herself, and her baby was only, I think, a couple years old, and she said, hey guys, I'm going to go and get some baby toys from this person that's selling some used baby toys. And then she went and got those baby toys. And then she told her parents when she got home, she said, I've got a bad headache. And then she falls out on the floor and she had a massive aneurysm. And they say what happens is some people are born with a genetically weak vein in their brain, that part of the vein is a thin wall. And they say that after over time of the vein kind of being stretched from the blood flow, that it will be like a rubber band. It will pop, and when it pops right there, it causes the blood to rupture in the brain, and then that popping effect and rupturing, it causes the brain damage, and then that's when they're not. It's not really reversible for a lot of people, and
Yeah.
that was the same thing for her. She had such massive brain damage that they couldn't save her. All they could do was save her organs.
Yeah, well, they called it an aneurysm, but it didn't pop. It was just a certain size. She always had headaches, and that's when they found it.
Well,
And
that's great. She's very fortunate, because
well,
most people.
not
Oh, I
anymore
understand. I
because
understand. I
she died
understand.
of cancer.
I
But the
understand.
thing was that she had it for many, many years and had an test every year to see if it was growing, and it wasn't. Then all of a sudden it was growing. And that crazy, well-known and famous neurologist told her she was, I think, in her 64 at the time, 65, and they told her you will not make it till 70 because it was growing. So
Wow.
she got her affairs in order, and she kept repeating. And every time I talked to her, she said, "Oh yeah, well, I'm not going to make it till 70, so I better enjoy my everything of my life now," and etc. And then she got the C shot, and she got bladder cancer, bladder removed. Then she got cancer in other areas of her life, and she died.
Yeah, that's
No, she
that's
didn't make
sad,
it till 70. She made it till 67, but she constantly repeated that, and that was
Yeah, and
crazy.
that's what I really, it saddens my heart to the point where I think it's an atrocity to the human race how anyone can ever say such a fear-causing thing to someone. Because in my beliefs, they're not God, they're not some future teller or spiritual guru that can predict the future. And how dare them tell someone that something like that's such a mind virus that's going to haunt them for the rest of their life. That's so sad, and no one should ever tell someone that. And I think the only time that they tell people such things like that, especially when people have the C word, is they want to instill fear in them to make them go through with the procedures. because they know that if they don't instill that fear in them, a lot of people don't want to take those procedures because they know how discomforting and painful they can be, especially the chemo and all those things from the side effects. But I think it's very sad how people can tell people stuff that's not really helping them. To tell someone that, all that's doing is making them scared the rest of their life from something that possibly may happen. There's no point really because that's not helping them any, by
Yeah.
telling them that, and it's just sad because I mean, how would they like it if someone told one of their family members that, and it's just very sad. That's all I can say about it.
Yeah, I spoke with someone recently. He was told that 17 years ago with leukemia, he only had 3 more years. And he was like, the heck with it. He was very young. I think he was only in his 20s. And he changed his diet and started with herbs and etc. So, yeah, it can be done. You can
Yeah.
overcome it. You just don't have to believe it. I wouldn't want to hear it, and I would if a doctor would tell me that. Oh my gosh, I now I don't go to doctors, so I don't have to
Yeah.
deal with that. But even the thought that they can say something like that to you, it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, that's why I tell people your mind is so powerful. I mean, it's probably one of the most powerful things in our body that we're ever going to experience besides the heart. And so you have to remember the connection between your mind and your heart and how one affects the other and how they're so connected with lightning speed. I mean, faster than we can even think. A message will go from one to the other, and so we have to be very aware that we create our reality we experience by the energy that we put out into the world. So if you keep putting out every day this fear that you have about the what ifs, then you're really attracting that by making your body or your brain think that more the next day just because you feared that so much today, and
Yeah,
so it's
but
kind of like,
absolutely, and that is why you need to start your day every day. I mean, go to sleep with gratefulness in your
that's
in your
right.
heart and in your mind, and wake up blessing the day, and you can do it.
That's
And
right.
I know there are so many people that we know are in excruciating pain, and don't know what to do and how to overcome it. It's My heart goes out to everyone. I mean, all these things can be very difficult. I would never tell to a client, well, this is what you did yourself, because we did not know. We did the best that we could, and what we learned. We have been lied to about a ton of things about what was good for us, and then, this is how you get through life. I'm still here, probably because of all the things that I tried diet wise. And it's even
Well, also, Tony,
my daughter told me that I had a food, well, what was it, illness or something. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm trying to figure out what works. What can we do to get healthy? Now we have the key, but it's not just the food, it's everything around us. And there is a lot of stress, and there is almost not, you can almost not get away from it. But this is, you go out, you enjoy the sun, you enjoy the butterflies, the wet grass, put your feet in there. There's so many things that you can do to enjoy life.
that's right. And I was going to say, and I didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize, but I was just going to say, and also, Tony, you're still hanging in there and doing good, because of your willingness to have a positive outlook on life and your willingness to be of service to other humans in this world, because that's creating such a good karmatic or energetic response that you're getting from God or the universe. And that's kind of like you're putting out that good into the world, and then that reflects back onto you, and so that's also part of why you're having, positive health, because they say those things are so important. They've talked to a lot of people that have gotten to the older stages in life, and you listen to a lot of them, and they'll tell you so much it goes so far by having so much love and a positive attitude in life and just positive outlook, and no matter what circumstances you're dealt with, because this world is a challenging world on purpose so that our spirits can grow and learn. So for us to think that we're supposed to have it easy, that's just really an illusion. But also, it's a really great disappointment or detriment to our spirit because we really don't need it easy. And I'm not saying you need hard times. I'm just trying to say we need challenging times sometimes to help us to grow as individuals. And so it's kind of like we just need to trust the divine things that are meant to happen the way they're meant to happen, and I was going to say before earlier, as I was going to say to all those listening, is that you really don't want to know some information that people want to so easily tell us. Like, what's the point of getting a biopsy if you have a tumor? Because what is that information really going to help you to know that's not going to hurt your mindset? That's going to be any different than what you need to do to help the tumor to go away in the first place. It's going to be is information that if it's negative, it's going to hurt your mindset negatively because you're going to keep thinking about it. But if it's positive, then it's going to just be positive. So really and truthfully, you don't even have to know about it. It's the same thing as like if we all could know actually the day we're going to die, in a way that would be poisonous to our brains because you wouldn't quit thinking about it. So I would say that we really don't need to know. That's why we don't know, and I kind of feel that goes back to, God kind of didn't want us to eat off the tree of knowledge of good and evil because he didn't really want you to know some of these things. He wanted you to be innocent from it, and blind to it, not out of being ignorant, but to kind of protect you from, we don't need to know everything, so, because of the fact, the same thing with how parents do with children, children don't need to know everything sometimes because it greatly overwhelms us. Because I know how I feel sometimes with studying some of this knowledge in the world. I feel overwhelmed. I'm like, whoa, knowledge overload. And it's almost like that's why Dr. Morse encourages people to keep it so simple. Because we can get so overwhelmed with knowledge. But yeah, go ahead, Tony, and you can talk some more for however long you want to keep it going. Because
Yeah, well,
I
we
really
all
I was just going to say, I've really thoroughly enjoyed the conversation again today with you guys.
yeah, we're already way past the hour, 1:20, we're 1:20 in. I like to keep it short, and that has to do with probably my own attention span. I can usually listen to about a 1 hour video, and then that's it.
Yeah.
Then I
And
get
I,
over, then I get over information overload. We had a
yeah.
few people coming on and getting off again, and I'm sorry if you're still here and I couldn't get to you right away because one of us was talking. I did see you. I do acknowledge you. And, you're welcome to come back on next time. Next week, we have Gary Perrin talking about tongue circles. I had never heard of that. And he is doing like classes every day, a course about tongue circles and what it can do for your body and your health. So I was like, I need to learn more about this. So I invited him for next week. So it will be interesting. You're definitely welcome to come on to then that and see where that is going. It's yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds interesting because I can imagine that's like, tongue exercises and just,
Yeah,
and something to do with that. Yeah, I've heard a
yeah.
lot of those things about different facial exercises and I can see where that would be important with the tongue because that's connected to so much important things, in the mouth and the head, so
I didn't
yeah,
even
that's
realize
interesting.
that. So
Yeah. Well,
we keep
anatomy is
yeah.
fascinating.
Oh, it is absolutely, and we're learning more and more, but it's just that, I want to understand the basics, and that is what keeps you moving forward. So
yeah.
I
I
did,
wish
yeah.
I was just going to say, I wish that we could sometime get Patty Lager to join us and we could have a discussion with her. But I know she's always so busy, and she does do interviews with people sometimes. But I would want her to stay for a couple hours because I'd have so much
Oh
questions and
yeah,
things to
and
talk about with her that
she used
it'd
to
be a
do.
lot to talk about.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was always on her. She did the last year. She did these video shows, live shows, and so you
yeah,
can
I
ask any
remember. I
question.
remember. remember. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
I joined several of them with her too. Yeah, she did more of them in 21, and she did a few in 22, but she wasn't able to do as much in 23, but she's always so busy with everything she has going on in her life, so, but I really think she's such a treasure to our communities because she has such a great understanding on, and I still want to take her courses myself, because, that's something that I want to be more knowledge about in a more technical way so that I can explain it easier to
Yeah,
people,
you would do well. I started one of her courses, and at that time I just could not, put enough time in it to do it. And it was absolutely, the courses are great. I mean, it's and affordable too. For people listening, if you wonder who we are talking about, her name is Patty, Patty. You say Lager, I would pronounce it as Lager, but that's my Dutch way, and it is spelled Lager. Look her up on YouTube. I forgot the name of a YouTube channel, but she has a whole bunch of very, very interesting videos, and she is very awake. So her videos are always very interesting.
Uh,
Okay, we have
Tony.
yeah.
I was just going to say, because I typed it in real quick, her channel on YouTube is called Natural Law Health.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Natural Law Health. Yeah,
yeah.
and that's her channel. And she also is on Rumble, and she's on another channel too. And she likes a lot of these of course uncensored channels, because yeah, as Tony just hit the nail on the head, she's very awake to even deeper, understanding in our world than just the anatomy and physiology and these different teachings. She talks all about a lot of different stuff out there that she's learned about, from time to time in her talks, and it's very interesting, But yeah, go ahead, Tony. Yeah, I just wanted to add that in.
I just thought we had Ella on from Sweden, and she said I could listen to you for hours.
Well, thank
That's
you.
yeah, that's quite a compliment for you
Yes.
to
Well, we appreciate it, and I apologize. I want to clear the air if I dominated too much of the conversation today. Again, I'm really passionate about these subjects, and there's always so much to talk about with these subjects. Before I let you go, Tony, I was going to say I remember with my a friend that I had from my 2018 class with Dr. Morris. She's in our communities. Her name, you probably talked to her some. She's not as active these days as she was. Her Vanda Maria, I think it was.
oh yeah,
Yeah, and Vonda, or that's I think how you pronounce her name.
yeah.
She's been a great friend, and we did talks on Clubhouse, and sometimes our talks on Clubhouse would last between 2 hours to 5 hours sometimes. And we would just have a long marathon where we'd have this long class where we would even break out Dr. Morse's book and we'd go over several chapters of it, and we would just have long talks because she talks even sometimes more than I do, and that's saying a lot, so we just had some great conversations and people really loved it there for a while, but then of course, she got to where she couldn't host them anymore and stuff, and so we
Huh.
stopped doing it. But yeah, we were doing that in 2021 and 22. We were doing that a lot, and that was when we were and doing lots on Clubhouse, but yeah, but okay, Tony, I won't keep on
Yeah,
rambling. I just
I
enjoy
was
talking
gonna
about these
say
things,
I see her popping up in the Fence of Dr. Morse group, and I think she has her own Facebook group.
Yeah,
And if she now we're doing this all on YouTube, and we have been quite safe. I only had one warning at one time where a video
good. That's great.
was removed, and that was because we were talking about baby food.
Oh yeah,
And so that one was removed because we said something that was dangerous. And but in the meantime, I have a channel on DinTube, which is I can say whatever I want there. If I want to do live streams there, then yeah, it's not free. Like with YouTube, it's free. But if it comes to it, I also put all my videos there as a backup, I have a lot of Dr. Morse's videos there as a backup, the older ones. And so when it comes to it, and we would need to do a video where we really want to talk about anything and everything, that can be hosted there. So
Yeah,
there
yeah.
are always options. And I think we should invite Wanda someday.
Yeah, we can. If she's able to talk with us, we'll just have to
Right.
ask her sometime.
Yeah.
She's going through a challenging moment right now. I think last month she lost her oldest dog she had, and it was the last the two dogs that she'd had in the last several years, and it's taken a lot for her to recover from it because she really loves her animals, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We always connect very well, us animal lovers.
Oh yeah, well, it just makes perfect sense because, those of us that, we're so compassionate about life, and we see how, how well we do and how much we love the plants and how we see that, truly we weren't meant to eat and consume animals, that really they're just our friends, that, we have such a deeper connection with them, and we won't open up that can of worms because we'll be here another hour talking about that too.
I know, I know. There
uh,
is somebody complaining there is no video. No, we only do audio. It's like I'm not the kind of person who can sit at my laptop or phone and constantly nicely look into the camera. I move around. It's like
yeah. Well, not only
it's
that, I like this setting too because it's kind of like a true podcast. And a lot of your podcasts are just audio. They're not always video. Some of them are
yeah.
video, but yeah, I like that too because you can do other things like you said, and not have to just be in front of a camera the whole time.
Yeah, I do this with clients too. That is why I don't do, Zoom with video because I'm very intuitive into voices and I know you are too, that. So I like
Yeah.
to do the phone chats or the audio chats only because I'm so much more concentrated to what is being said. And that is another thing. Both Tad and I are Dr. Morse trained and certified iridologists, detox specialists, health counselors, whatever you want to call us. That's information and mine is in the description, so you can connect with either of us. For you can with me, and I don't know if you do that tattoo, you can have a 15-minute and sometimes a little longer free chat where I can explain how I work and talk about your needs, and that is free, but it's not a counseling time, it's just getting to know each other. So we are available for that. And yeah, okay. I see here, Manish Kumar, sir, you have taken an anonymity. Yeah, there's something going over it, and physiology part 1 and 2. That is a question for you, Tat. No, I don't think you did.
No, I haven't been able to take her, if you're talking about Patty Lager's class of anatomy and physiology. No, I haven't been able to take those yet. I would like to. The only thing that's been holding me back is just the monetary investment, but yes, I would love to invest in those one day. That would be a great addition to my repertoire, I would love, I hope that Dr. Morse is still able to before he leaves this planet. I hope that he's able to have an official naturopathic certified school. I would love that because I would definitely be signed up for that because I would love to take my naturopath degree through him if he gets that to come to fruition. Because I would love to do that still one day, and I would also love to be a master herbalist one day. It's just, again, it just takes the time to be able to do all the criteria to meet those requirements to become those things, because not just to have the certification, but to just go through the training for the knowledge, and because I love herbs so much. I find them so fascinating, I just really do.
Yeah, absolutely. I have been into herbs my whole life. I remember when they started, there was someone on the sideways in the village where I lived, and they started to mow the grass there, from the town. And I was like, oh my God, they're mowing down. I don't even know what it was. So I stopped them and I grabbed the herbs and let them do their work. It's like, no, you're not gonna mow this down.
Yeah. Well, I've been really into, I haven't studied it enough, and I would love to study it so much more, and I'm in the process of doing that, is how to go out into the wild and wild forage not only these herbs, but just, edible plants, because there's this one guy I follow on social media that you ought to check out sometimes. He's on TikTok. He's on a lot of these social media channels. His name's Samuel Thayer, and he actually has a book out. It's a wonderful a guide to collecting wild forage plants and edibles, and including herbs out in the wild. And he's amazing. He truly is amazing. I'll send you the link to him sometime, Tony, so you can check him out.
Yeah, I do think that with the way the world is going, we do need to know about this,
Oh yeah, and
and
so much of those plants that grow out in the
yeah,
wild, they're more nutritious than even the ones that we get from the grocery store.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna end this show, our podcast, and thank you for being here again,
My
Ted.
pleasure.
I enjoyed it, and we'll do it soon with whatever topic that pops in our mind or what people are asking about soon again. And yeah, till the next time. And thanks everyone for being here. Much love to everyone. Have a beautiful day. Feel good and yeah, much love. Bye bye.
Take care. Take care.